Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Ladd, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 201. It is just myself and Pete with you today, and we were just looking back. Last time we did a episode, just the two of us, was about 7 episodes ago. I think maybe 8 episodes ago. We've had 6 guests on the spin, and just to recap, if you haven't listened to all of those, I will introduce Pete in a minute because we're going to be talking a lot today, just the two of us. But the last 6 episodes, we've had Dan John, obviously, on for episode 200, Alison Young on for episode 199, Mark Rifkind on for episode 198, Alex Nicole Bennett
in at 196,
in at 197. Alex Nicole Bennett at 196, Ollie Mel, and at 195, Nick Rainbird. And then prior to that, episode 194 was myself and Pete discussing the Dan and Tim weekend. So yeah, we haven't actually had a session, an episode, just kind of talking about things together for about the last 7 weeks. So I tell you what I'll do. Shall I do the review first of all, Pete? Should I get that out of the way first?
If you want to, I've now got Alan Fluff Freeman going around in my head. In it number.
Is that the top 40?
Yeah, but it didn't he used to do Pick the Pops and all that sort of stuff as well.
Oh, okay.
He was what Smashy and Nicey were based on, wasn't he?
Oh, okay, yeah.
When they used to do Bachman Turner Overdrive, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Brilliant. Well, before we get going, we just have had another review through, but this shows how long it takes for the reviews to show up for us, because this review was written on the 9th of May, 2024. So at the time of recording, about a month ago. And this review is by Mr. Graham Harris, which I will read in a second. It was left on the Apple podcast, which is where we're trying to get reviews. So Graham, I know you listen obviously every week. If you can message me your, t-shirt or hoodie and size and color, I will get that sent off to you as soon as you get back to me, and also your postal address as well, so I know where to ship it to. We'll get that done. But this is a really great review from Graham Harris. So I think this was written regarding episode 192, which that was the Belfast debrief episode we said, didn't we, Pete?
Yep.
That's what we said, yep. So episode 192, long time FOTS laugh, which I believe means long time friend of the show. This episode's timing was absolutely spot on for me. I've just made some big changes in my life, and the ability to focus on one thing and not get distracted is a new skill that I'm learning to get to grips with. Huge thank you for giving me a further nudge this way. I always find the way you and the guests deliver messages seem to really hit home in a way that I like, as you all come across extremely authentically. And as Pete said, that we come across extremely authentically because we are extremely authentic. So I started listening whilst doing my laps around the Olympic Stadium in Stratford way back in lockdown, and I finally managed to remember to leave a review. Keep up the great work. So yeah, thank you very much, Graham Harris, long-time friend of the show, long-time listener. If you would, like I say, message myself on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and just let me know t-shirt or hoodie, color and size, and your home address. I'll get that sorted out for you. So thank you very much. So yeah, if you are listening and you are a long time listener, long time friend of the show, please do go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review, and then we'll sort you out with some merch. So we have been really busy. We've had a fantastic weekend. Last weekend, Pete and I were both in Cardiff for the UK's Strongest Man. I'm holding up a program if you are watching on YouTube. I've got that there. I've got all the events and all the people who competed and stuff on it. But we had a really, really great time. I mean, it was the first ever strongman show to be live broadcast on kind of like mainstream terrestrial TV. So it was on Channel 5 in the UK on Saturday and Sunday, both days. Yeah, it was a great weekend, wasn't it, Pete? You enjoyed it again. We went last year, obviously, to Nottingham, but this year was great again, wasn't it?
It was very different because last year was massive, like huge, and it was 3 days, wasn't it? And they had the ladies' event and the men's event and all of that. And it kind of it was a bit disjointed, wasn't it? It dragged on because like time. It wasn't very that slick, but it was still a good show. But yeah, this time because it was live on Channel 5, you could get to see yourself on the telly, which was great. So there's yeah, somebody, I think it was Rob. Is it Rob? Rob Sharp? Who was there?
Yes, Robert Sharp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he said he was there. He listens to the podcast thing, but he said he was there, and he well, I bumped into him, but then he sent me a picture of us on the telly of me and Sean, and we looked so miserable because the only time they were panning around the crowd when was when there was nothing going on. So you're not like cheering, and you're just sitting going on.
Yeah, because I sent you a couple of pictures because I saw you on TV yesterday because Bella and I got back and we've been watching it the last couple of days and just watching bits of it before she kind of goes to bed, just sort of like 20 minutes, half an hour at a time. And yeah, I saw you and Sean really quickly on, and then yesterday I saw myself and her, we saw ourselves on telly, so she was really excited about that. But no,
Yeah.
it was an absolutely fantastic show, really good. And like you say, I think again, friend of the show, Paul Field, watched it. I think he was watching quite a lot of it on the Saturday, and he said he was really impressed with how professional and how slick it was on the TV, considering it was like a live event, and it was done really well when you watch the TV and like you say, I think it was 2 till 5 both days live, so they really kind of kept it fairly tight. And no, I thought it was really good. Bumped into and got a picture and had a chat with Lucy Underdown as well, who is going to be coming onto the podcast at some stage. She is still a full-time serving sort of police officer, so she's very busy at the moment. She said she's going to be really busy working over the time that the Euros, the football's on over here. So but we are going to get Lucy on, and yeah, bumped into quite a few people we know and caught up with people there. So no, it was great, really good.
It was really interesting actually, just bumping into people like Rob just went, "Oh, hello, Mr. Lant," and I was like, "Hello," and I didn't know who he was. And then he was like, "I've been to James." It was at James's place for the David Keown workshop, and he was there for Mr. Maceman as well, and all of this. And I was like, "Oh yeah," it was weird. I was like, "Well, hang on, what's going on here?" Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no,
it was a bit like Ellie was there as well, who's been on the show, and
Eddie Corley was there, Ryan Hedges was there, Dean was there, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Mark Basher Barton was there. Yeah, loads of people. So
yeah, I bumped into him as well, and I thought he was the other fella who tore his bicep at the
yes,
when we were on the loading crew, the guy who tore his bicep, but that's the other big fella, the big strong man fella. So he was like, "No, that wasn't me," and I was like, "Oh, I'm getting it all wrong with it."
No, it was great. And the other thing I want to say to everybody as well, before we get into kind of more depth of chatting about various things that we want to kind of cover today, we are, as a podcast, Health Oddity, we are extremely proud and excited to be sponsoring Britain's Disabled Strongman and Strongwoman this September at Brunel University, and that is going to be on the 14th and the 15th of September at Brunel University. Gary Clark, I think he's going to come on again beforehand and talk about this big show now that at Brunel in London, which is going to be, the facilities there look incredible. Pete and I are both going to be there on the loading crew again this year. Alex Nicole Bennett, who was on the podcast just a couple of weeks back, is going to be on the loading crew as well. And then there's going to be obviously former guests of the show. Louise Greer and Mark Tonner is going to be competing again. So yeah, I mean, and the fact that it's in London. So yeah, Health Oddity are sponsoring the event this year. So you will see us on their kind of social media links and on the athlete t-shirts and all kind of things. What are you going to say, Pete?
And a shout out to Lee as well, Lee Freeman, who's a client of mine, an online client of mine who became an online client after listening to this podcast. We've been working together for ages, but he's on the loading crew as well. Because yeah, he's only like an hour away or something like that. He lives in London, so I just messaged him and said, "Do you fancy getting involved?" And then I told Gary, and before I could tell Lee that Gary was interested, Gary had already messaged
him. No, it's great. So that's a weekend. So we will mention it, I know, in the run up to, but that's going to be the 14th and the 15th, the Saturday and the Sunday, 14th and 15th of September, Brunel University. And also the head referee will be 4 times world's strongest man and former guest of the show, Magnus for Magnussen. So Magnus is going to be there again. I think I'm doing the airport run. I think I'm picking him up from Heathrow. And just a quick plug as well. I think this is going to be going out. This podcast will be going out probably the end of June, start of July. I think. I'm trying to do this on the fly.
I mean, this is interesting podcasting, this, isn't it?
This is interesting podcasting. So let me just have a look. So Mark Rifkind is this Friday. Sorry, we're losing you. Friday, dang, bang. So this is coming out on Friday. If you're listening on the day of release, Friday, the 5th of July. So on Sunday, the 14th of July, which is only a couple of weeks away. Well, it's actually a week on Sunday. Magnus for Magnussen is at Unique Results in Chelmsford for a special strongman seminar. So we're recording this 3-4 weeks in advance. If there are still tickets available or any tickets available, come along and meet Magnus in Chelmsford, Essex at the seminar, which will be great. But we're going to be spending, like that weekend with him and obviously in September. So yeah, that'll be great. And just wanted to say that, guys. So you will see us heavily involved in Britain's disabled strongman and strongwoman in September. So, Pete,
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. That's all
we'll see you next week.
That's like loads of notes, loads of notices at the start of the podcast there. I have also printed off. I'm holding up a copy of Dan John's armor building formula. We obviously had Dan on last weekend, last Friday, sorry. So I printed off a copy and I'm reading that now myself. And we wanted to have a bit of a, there's obviously lots we can talk about regarding the strongman and things, but I think to make it as relatable as possible to as many of you as possible today, I mentioned to Pete that I did a video for my members from the ice tub yesterday, and it was kind of a reflections post, really, based upon the fact that this year is 17 years since I've been running Unique Results. So this year is going to be 4 years of Health Oddity podcast. In August, I think, or September, around that time, summer anyway, isn't it? It's 4 years of the Health Oddity podcast. On the 1st of August, it's 17 years that I've been running Unique Results, but it's also 25 years. So it's a quarter century since I've been involved in the fitness industry and coaching and that sort of thing. And I kind of did a bit of a post where I kind of tried to reflect back. I've had a few cheeky comments actually at the gym today. I'll tell you about in a minute. But I was thinking back to 25 years ago when I first started in the industry, how different life was, and just lots of stuff that we have nowadays in our lives, and how society is, and how much things have changed in the last 25 years. And there is a reason behind me saying that. It's not just being nostalgic and looking back 25 years. But I invited the members. I said, what was life like 25 years ago? Am I over kind of it's not a word, nostalgizing or whatever word, but am I kind of looking back with kind of rose tinted glasses, or am I getting things wrong? And I mentioned that 25 years ago, I thought that the shops used to be shut on Sundays 25 years ago. And a lady, Celine, who does listen to the podcast, said to me today, well, 25 years ago, shops were open on a Sunday, because she's French and she moved over from France. And she said, I've been in the country 22 years and shops have always been open on a Sunday. But then Edith, long-term friend of the show, cheeky Edith, said to me, because I said, what else has changed in the last 25 years? And she said, well, your hairline has certainly changed in the last 25 years. So I said, right, that's enough. That's a bit cheeky. But yes, my hairline has changed in the last 25 years. But the reason being, we mentioned on the podcast with Dan last week, and there is a point to all this. Well, Pete, you mentioned what did you mentioned about the rates of overweight and obesity in certainly in the UK
Yep.
have almost doubled in the last kind of 20-25 years. What was the numbers you said to me earlier?
In that time, in the time you're talking about, yeah, it's gone from 14% up to like 28, 29%.
Yeah,
So it's doubled, more than doubled.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I was trying to think of, and this is kind of, we can have a chat around this. I was trying to think of, obviously, this is a massive, like multi-faceted kind of, there's no one answer as to why that's happened. But I just kind of was reflecting upon how different life was then, in the fact that, and we were talking a little bit before we came on air today, that there wasn't certainly you didn't have most people didn't have a mobile phone 25 years ago. I don't think I had an email address 25 years ago. There was no social media 25 years ago. There was certainly no Netflix, Amazon Prime, any of that sort of thing. The proliferation of takeaways and fast food restaurants and stuff all around us wasn't anywhere near what it is now 25 years ago. And we mentioned as well, Pete, like things like
Google's 25 years old.
Google is 25 years. Yes.
So Google had just come out.
And it would have been nowhere near as smooth, or as the internet was very kind of early then.
Well, even I remember there was something that sparked it, and I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't as long ago as you think. But the images, the image search
Yeah.
on Google, that's really relatively new, like in the last 12 or 13 years or something stupid like that. So,
Because I remember, yeah. So, yeah, all of those things. And we mentioned as well, just before coming on, because we were trying to think of things that have changed in terms of, like, now you can obviously get your weekly shop delivered from Tesco's or Waitrose or Sainsbury's or wherever. So you haven't even got to go out the house to get your weekly shop delivered, which obviously never would have happened back then. Pete mentioned things like, this Deliveroo and Just Eat and, these kind of delivery of just anything you want can be at your door in 30 minutes or less, probably.
Amazon as well. You don't need to go shopping. Amazon's like,
yeah,
you want something and you get it tomorrow at your
yeah,
door.
yeah. So we were just talking about the changes in society that potentially might have had a part to play in the massive change that we've experienced in society. And like Pete said, going from, even if we just take, it might not be 100% accurate, but I think it's pretty, if we said 14% to 28% over the last quarter of a century, 25 years, all those things that have changed. And one of the things that I was talking about was that the standard advice that used to be given, and that I used to give, and that I was we were taught kind of back then 25 years ago, was that you need to and gyms were far different then. There was far less gyms around anyway. There was no personal trainers, or personal training wasn't a thing 25 years ago.
You started it, didn't you?
I started it.
You started all 25 years ago. You were the pioneer.
But there's no personal trainers 25 years ago. And the thing was that you used to tell people to exercise 3 times a week. And this kind of got me thinking that 3 times a week of exercise, when you already lead a purposeful training, I should say, or going to a gym or doing some kind of purposeful structured exercise. If you already lead a fairly active life, is still good, and is like pretty solid advice. But especially in the last 3-4 years, 2, 3, 4 years since like lockdown and stuff, when more and more people, I certainly know more of our members at Unique Results, are maybe only going to work 1 or 2 or 3 days a week at the most. So they're having, 2, 3 or 4 days a week, maybe working from home. And on those days, people can be really sedentary, where they're maybe only getting, 1, 2, 3,000 steps in a day if they're barely leaving the house. Actually, exercising 3 times a week is probably not enough to counteract. And we've talked about this before as well, like even 1 hour a day of purposeful exercise, if you're doing absolutely nothing the other 23 hours, the 1 hour is not enough to counteract the 23 where you're doing nothing. So it was just interesting. So I thought we could maybe talk around this. And just quickly before I know I'm talking a lot, in the post I said about training more, try and make 1 hour every day, even if it's going out for a walk or something. And I was reading Dan's new book, The Armor Building Formula, last night. So this was after I did the video, and I read on there, he says, for most of us, the most efficient path to life successes is exercising up to an hour a day, every day. And hopefully we will do this for the rest of our lives. So I thought we could maybe use that kind of quote and that rambling monologue that I've just been on to maybe kind of have a bit of a chat around kind of what you see with your members, Pete, and what the kind of, you are very active, you walk for hours a day with your dog. So for you to do 3 strength training sessions and you're on your feet like 8 loads every day, you don't need to do more structured training than you do. But most people, I'd probably say 99% of people are not don't live a lifestyle like yours. You know what I mean? They're not out walking for hours every day with a dog. Yeah, maybe some people are, but most of the listeners probably aren't. So yeah, what's your kind of views on this, and how do you view it?
Well, yeah, it's definitely changed. I mean, that's the thing. Like people, you look at advice from 20 or 30 years ago or whatever, and it's like, well, yeah, times have changed. Times have moved on. We've outsourced more mobility, more movement since then. Like you say, we were talking about like people getting their breakfast delivered from McDonald's and stuff like that. You couldn't do that back in the day, right? So you don't have to leave your house. You could quite easily live without ever leaving your house, pretty much. You can work from home. You can get everything delivered. You would never have to leave. So yeah, I think what you're saying and what Dan's obviously said in the book is brilliant. Yeah, just because it's one of those things we were talking about before we started recording, wasn't it? It's like you get things like that, and people will then ask the question, "Well, what do you mean by exercise?" And it's like, right, if you have to ask the question, you're probably not doing enough. It's if you have to ask rather than just going, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea," and going for a walk or something like that. But when you said like in terms of like my guys, the guys who come on the walking group stuff are great because they come for the walk, so that's fantastic. There was actually a lady last night. We did a walk yesterday evening, and it was a walk that she'd done a few months ago, and she got tired on the walk, and she was like the last person. It took an extra half an hour for her, so I had to hang around at the back with her while everyone went ahead and all that, and she felt really bad about that. And I don't know whether she was just having a bad day or not, but we did the walk last night and she was fine. So, and I didn't want to mention it, but she brought it up. So I was like, okay, so what do you think? What's the difference then? Is it because of the time? The last one was early in the morning or whatever. She said, no, I just think I'm fitter because she's been getting out more, right? So there's that. But then a couple of my guys would do like the structured strength work, which is great. And I was speaking to one of them who's in the mindset group that I do actually as well. And I was speaking to him in that, and he said, because I've been doing some snatches, right?
Oh, I saw that you've been doing like snatches on the minute for like half an hour. Did you do the other day, or 20 minutes or something? Or...
Yeah, exactly. But nothing for me, it's dead easy.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying it's not easy for anyone, but I've been using a weight that's very manageable. And I did 25 minutes, 250 of them, breathing through my nose. I wasn't tired at the end. And that was the goal, to just do something. And now, because I wanted to bring my resting heart rate down a bit, right? So one of the guys has seen that and he was like, do you know how I train with you 3 days a week doing strength weight? He goes, I feel much better on those days than I do on the days that I don't train. And I was like, okay. And it's not up to me to tell anyone what to do. And he goes, so I could do something like that. He goes, I've got a 20 kilo bell at home. I could do some snatches like you've been doing, couldn't I, for like 10 minutes? And I'm like, yep. And then up at 20, 25, whatever. And he's like, I've got time to do that. And it'll probably make me feel better during the day, wouldn't it? And I'm like, yep. So he's going to start doing that. I don't know whether he has yet or not, because this was on Tuesday when we talked about it. And it's now Thursday. So, but that's kind of what I try to get instilled into people. It's like, right, you're doing these sessions with me, but outside of them, just be active, do other stuff. Yeah. So as I
was going to ask, do any of your guys who do the kettlebell training, the structured strength training with you, they do your groups? Do any of them join in with walk bath and stuff like that, or is it kind of just a totally separate thing?
They don't. I keep telling them, but one of them's been along once. In fact, no, that's not true. One guy's been along once, who's the same guy I'm talking about, and then another guy's come along a few times. But I keep talking about it, and they're like, "Oh, that looks great." Oh no, and another guy and his wife came along, but they kind of tailed off. But other than that, no, literally, it's an entirely separate group. Because I've been telling them to come along, but well, not telling them, asking them, and I'm mentioning it and all that, and they're not for some. I don't know why. It's not up to me to make them do it, is it? But yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, no, because it's interesting, because I know as well, talking about kind of advice that's given that may be misunderstood or just taken kind of wrong, if you like. That we always used to say, or there was always this, and it still probably is the case, where you're told, oh, you mustn't train every day. You need a rest day every week, or you mustn't train 2 days in a row because your body needs time to recover and to recover and heal and to recuperate and all the rest of it. And I think people kind of take that advice, well, it's a bit too literally, and also then they're kind of taking it out of context, because a lot of that advice is given regarding people doing very strenuous, serious kind of strength training or bodybuilding training or high intensity training. And what I am advocating, and I think probably what Pete's advocating and what we are advocating as a podcast, is not that you kind of smash yourself to bits 7 days a week and that your high intensity training or your strength training but that you are active 7 days a week, which is different, so it's not, if you're going out for a nice walk for an hour, you don't need a day off after that to recover. Or if you're doing and it's the kind, again, it's the kind of the standard sort of Dan John advice, the consistency beats intensity, the little and often over the long haul, like Pete just mentioned, doing snatches for 15 or 20 minutes with a weight that you can very comfortably do and that you can maintain really impeccable technique with, you don't need a day off after doing that. It's kind of just trying to put these things together where I'd rather turn down the intensity a bit, but just focus on form, technique, and look for ways to be more active. So it doesn't necessarily have to be hardcore strength training, powerlifting, bodybuilding, high intensity interval training, whatever. It's actually being active for an hour every day of the week, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. So I often get that not pushback, but if you try and suggest to people to train more regularly, then you often get people say to you, oh, well, isn't rest just as important though? But the intensity that the people might be exercising with is so low that, they're not really stressing the body too much anyway. And you can do different things on different days, so you're not obviously accumulating fatigue. And if you are seriously training for physical adaptation in terms of strength or muscle building hypertrophy, then yes, that's different. But I think the majority of people in society are not probably training that hard anyway, even when they are training, and it's probably something they can do 7 days a week. I mean, what's your thoughts around that, Pete?
Well, you've got to put it in perspective, right? So a lot of people are stressed. beyond belief. I used to be. So when you're training, you're battling against that as well. So saying like you got to, that's when people say like, you can say, right, you need some rest, but you can have, there's such a thing as active rest. So for me, that snatch session is training, and it's definitely not rest, but it's not so challenging that I can't go for it. So not yesterday, today I did it. And yesterday I did a 15-mile walk with a dog. And then, and that was after strength training yesterday morning as well, but that was doing a recce for the walk and then the walk. And then this morning I did the snatch session, and then so I did 32,000 steps yesterday, right? I've done 11,000 today, taking him out for about an hour and a half. And that's all I'm doing today. I'm not doing any more walking. Tomorrow we'll probably do something similar. Then Saturday is the walk and Sunday is a bigger walk. So I wave it through the week as well, right? But years ago, if I did a 15-mile walk, I wouldn't do anything for a few days after. I'd probably take sandwiches with us and all that, and I wouldn't do anything for a couple of days afterwards. But I've built up to that. So that is kind of, it's not rest, but it doesn't tax me too much at all. But that's because I manage I've just done a video on this today, actually, because the energy I get from going for a walk, being out in nature, watching the dogs sniffing and all that sort of stuff gives me energy back, right? So I can use that energy to keep going. And someone asked me the other week about, how is this going to burn you out though, the whole thing you're doing for walk bath and everything? I was like, well, no, because it feeds me energy, and I spend time with you guys, you people, when I'm out walking. I get feedback, instant feedback from you guys as well. You tell me how great it is, or you tell me like we need different walks and all that. And I'm like, right, I'll go and sort that out. And it gives me energy to do that, because then they get that back, right? But for someone who's busy at work all day, busy with the kids at home after that, not sleeping very well, not drinking enough water, not eating very well, then training day after day after day, adding that on top is just going to add to the stress. But it doesn't mean you can't do anything. So going for a walk is a great place to start, or just going down the gym and doing some light weights or whatever it is, a spin class or whatever. And it's because, like you say, the intensity comes later on, as far as I'm concerned. Because if you start out doing intense training straight away, you've got nowhere to go. But if you start out slowly, you can get more intense, and then all of a sudden you can do a 15-mile walk, and and you're ready to go the next day as well. So it's all in context. So the advice that comes out from, it could, like, we're probably guilty of it as well, that come out from trainers and such, is like, get 8 hours sleep, drink as, like, I don't know, whatever it is, 2 liters of water a day, get 10,000 steps, get some strength training in 3 times a week. You're getting into the Huberman morning routine, aren't you? Of like, well, when do I go to work, and when do I, and these are the questions that Dan and Tim were getting at the workshop, weren't they? From a couple of people who are like, okay, but you're in the industry. What do you do? What does a normal person do who's got stresses and strains throughout life? So there's that balance, but it doesn't mean you can't do anything. And just going for a walk or a run or a jog or, some light weights or whatever it is, is the place to start. And then you start to change. It's incorporating it into your lifestyle. But as you we've said it before, as you start to incorporate this stuff in, your lifestyle tends to change. There was a guy on the walk last night talking about that. I mean, he's had a horrible time with like divorce and stuff like that. He's had a horrible time. And he's now just getting into the realms of losing a bit of weight, getting the steps in. He's back on a kettlebell swing program that I sent him and stuff like that. And it's like just simple stuff, and we were talking about it last night, and it was like he tried all this a few years ago, but he was so stressed that it didn't hit right, because his body wasn't ready, because his brain wasn't ready, and his central nervous system wasn't ready, whereas now he is. So it's a hard thing to get in a 5-minute rant on a podcast. All of that, but
yeah, it's not. But I think one thing that you said, which is might be useful for people as well and interesting, that you kind of said it and you kind of glossed over it because it was just part of something you said. But for people who I quickly did the maths while you were talking. we talk about like numbers of steps per day, and when we say, I mentioned earlier, that if people are working from home, they might only get 2 or 3,000 steps in a day. And you mentioned sort of 32,000 steps, and you mentioned 11,000 steps. And you said, and really, if people don't track, I don't track I mean, my phone, if it's in my pocket, will track my steps. But roughly speaking, whenever have looked at my steps, and the numbers that you just put out there as well, I think kind of correlate. If you're out walking, if you go for a walk, roughly you cover 1,000 steps in 10 minutes. Is that kind of fair
Yeah.
to say? Because I think you said you did about an hour and a half, and it was 10,000 steps. So approximately per 10 minutes walking is 1,000 steps.
Yeah.
So really 10, if we look at, I mean, James Brees I caught up with obviously over the weekend in Cardiff as well. He's got his 777, which was trumped by Dan's 888. But it's kind of,
Is that in the book?
no, he didn't really. But he said, I've got a better program, didn't he? He goes, 888. It's one better.
One better. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Spinal Tap, in it, one louder. So the 777 is the WWS, the walk, the water, the sleep, the 7,000 steps a day minimum, the 7 glasses of water, approximately 2 liters a day minimum, and then the 7 hours of sleep a night, the 777, which is what I kind of promote to people as well. But per 10-minute block of walking is about 1,000 steps. So it's only really being on your feet and walking and moving around for 70 to 100 minutes a day, and that doesn't have to be done in one block as a continuous going out walking. But I know Mark Bell, I listened to the Mark Bell's Power Project, and he was really popularizing this idea of 10-minute walks, and if you have dinner and you can, and you're at work, go out for a 10-minute walk. After your evening meal, go out for a 10-minute walk. Maybe in the morning, go out for a 10-minute walk. And if you think those 10-minute walks are 1,000 steps each, it doesn't actually take that much to get up to 7,000, 10,000 plus steps a day. It's not like many people will get up to your level of maybe 30,000 steps, not every day, but occasionally in a day. But that's an easy way for people to maybe incorporate some of this into their everyday life, which accumulates throughout the day, and it just starts to turn the tide and to shift things a little bit, doesn't it?
But it's even so. Dan's talked about this in the past as well. But it's even to things like you can start out with that sort of stuff, but then you can get in sneaky ways as well, right? So when I did the snatches this morning, sorry, I did it just before a session with the guys. So I woke up to the park carrying the bell, right? And then I put it down. It's like, quarter of a mile or something. So it's a loaded carry with a 20 kilo, which isn't stupidly heavy, but it's a loaded carry with a 20 kilo. Then I do the snatch session, then the guys train, then I carried it back. And that's a super simple way of just doing it. You're getting a loaded carry in, you're getting some steps in, you're getting your training session in, and then you carry it back. So you could do that. I don't know, go for a walk for 5 minutes with the bell, do your snatch session, which might take 15, and then walk home. That's like 25 minutes, half an hour. And the idea is you won't need to stop the session and like get your breath back and all that. You just go straight back home. So silly little things like that. And it gets you out and about, gets you out down like a local park or something like that. You might bump into people and say hello and what have you. So, and it's that thing of like, people might say, well, I haven't got the time to do that. And it's like, well, there's not a lot we can do about that. You have to find it. You have to make it. You have to, carve it out of somewhere. But yeah, all these little ways of doing stuff. But 10-minute, I mean, I know I don't really track my steps because I know I do enough walking, but I know my whole surrounding area now. I know how far I can go in how long. So today I did a shorter walk with the boy, and I've got millions of them. So I just went out and did a quick walk with him, did like a little walk of a bigger walk, a little loop of a bigger loop. because I know it. And I know I went out at roughly 12 o'clock and I knew I'd be back in time to do this podcast. I know that. Where I was yesterday, there's a huge Wessex Water have got a big old office here, and then there's a school next to it, and there's a footpath which goes in the middle, like down between the two where I went, and it goes down to this place Dundas Aqueduct, which is an amazing place. Very historic and all of that. And it's part of the coal canal, part of the canal, and the old Somerset coal canals there, lots of history and all of that. And it's literally just down the hill from there. So you can imagine, like, say you're working at Wessex Water, sitting behind a desk all day. It's like, I haven't got time to go for a walk. It's like, there's literally a footpath outside your building. You could go out in that. There's a lush field and a great meadow. You could walk around that. You could just sit in it. You can probably see it from your window as well. And you might wonder how to get there, but there's a path. So if it's a sunny day, you go and get a coffee, right? From the coffee bar or whatever it is in your building. How long is that going to take? You could go for a walk in that time as well. You know what I mean? So it's like all these little sneaky ways of doing it.
It was lovely at the weekend. One thing that I know you did it as well, but I was we had a bit of a nightmare, not a nightmare, but it was difficult to get parked on the Saturday at the Strongman because there was thousands of people there and the parking was a bit limited. So on the Sunday, I had said I was there with Bella, who's 7. She was 8. She turned 8 2 days ago, actually, but she's only a little thing, obviously. And I'd said to her, right, we're gonna, and I was conscious as well that I've been sat down I'd had a 4.5 hour drive on the Friday, basically sat down for most of the day, obviously on the Saturday at the Strongman, and had the prospect of pretty much sitting down and not doing much all day on the Sunday. So I'd said to her, well, we're going to go and we're going to park at the arena really early. And then we're going to go for like a walk to that Mermaid Quay in Cardiff. So if anyone knows Cardiff, they know kind of where that is. It's a really lovely place. And it was about a half an hour walk from the arena to the Mermaid Quay.
It was a lovely walk, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like 20 minutes of the walk was on this bridge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just crossed across. So it's just a long straight bridge. And you had cars kind of going fast one side, and then the water the other side. But it was fine. But I'd said to Bella, I said, right, we're gonna go and we're gonna park early, so we don't have a problem parking. We've got no stress about parking, and then we're gonna go for a walk. And then we ended up going to that Techniquest Science Museum thing. And she was like, oh, I don't want to walk. I don't want to walk a half hour. I've only got little legs and all this sort of stuff. I was like,
I've only got little legs.
I was like, come on, we're gonna walk. We're gonna go for a walk, So we arrived. I think the show wasn't going to start till 2, and so we didn't really need to get back there till about 1:30. But I think we parked at like 10 a.m. So we had loads of time. And then we did this walk, to all the way to like Mermaid. It's a half-hour walk there, and then we did some bits and mooched around there for a bit, and then a half-hour walk back, which was good, which would have been 6,000 steps. A couple of times we I think on the Saturday we left our car at the arena, and then we walked, which was only about a 10-minute walk to the kind of the nearby pub where we had some food. Then we walked back, and then we watched the truck pull in the evening. So all these little opportunities, I was just trying to look for opportunities to actually move my legs and to actually just move about a bit, it's so easy to just sit and do nothing, and would have felt awful just sat down all day and not moving, and everything tightens up. Your back tightens up sitting in those arena seats for 3 hours. And so just moving, which I know you did you walked as well, didn't you, on the Sunday? And I think I'm
just looking it up. I did 11,000 steps that day.
Yeah, on the Sunday.
And we basically drove over from where we were staying, parked up the same as you, walked down to Mermaid Quay, had some breakfast, wandered around there for a bit, walked back. And then when it was finished, we went and picked Sid up from Sean's cousins and then drove home. So I managed to get 11,000 steps in all of that just by walking, because we walked over, had some breakfast, and then walked back. So there's ways and means. And then the night before, I think I got 8 or 9,000 steps the day before. And we didn't do any specific walking, but where we were staying, we went out for dinner and we just walked there. It was like hot. half a mile or 3/4 of a mile up the road from where we were staying. So we
Right.
walked up
Okay.
there, had a pint on the way, had dinner and that, and then walked back and had a beer on the way back as well. And like you managed to get 8,000 steps in, which is like considering we've been sitting in a plastic chair all day, it was quite nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to see how you go back. Oh, this is all my average stuff. Steps a day. Is that Sunday? How do I see that?
It was the 9th.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out on my thing. But yeah, on the last 7 days, you took an average of 9,324 steps. So nearly 10,000 steps a day averaging. Now, basically that includes, but it looks to me like the Sunday is like a big one, is like more, that I can't get the data on it's my Apple thing at the moment, but yeah, Sunday is definitely more than, but a lot of the time I don't, that's only on my phone. So most of the time at the gym, I'll leave my phone. I'm out on my feet all day, moving around.
Yeah.
And my phone's usually sat on one of the benches or something, so it's not kind of tracking things all the time. But I'm certainly even on the phone, hitting around that 10,000 steps a day average. So, and that's
Which
how, yeah,
well, it's interesting because I'm just looking at my app now on
yeah,
here, and it's still my age group and everyone. The average is about 5,000 a day.
mm, mm.
Still, and I've said that before, and the thing about that is that means over half of people will be doing less,
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
which
it's
is just which is bonkers. Which is, I mean, what's it? That's less than 2 miles in a
mm,
day
mm,
every day.
yeah,
So what you were saying earlier about dancing in the boot and like just doing something every single day
mm.
is great.
And
And we
also
spoke
the
about it
other,
before. Even walking, you go walking. The chances are you can walk tomorrow and you can walk the next day, and you can go a bit further.
yeah,
If you don't, that's when you'll get sore.
yeah.
You
And it's
know.
also oh, I was just going to say, I was just thinking about something. Sorry, I've lost my chain of thought. I was going to say something. One thing I was going to say earlier, I was going to shout out to Tara Mann, who listens to the podcast. Because she saw my video that I did and said about, you really need to be trying to do something every day. And she messaged me and said, "Oh, I thought I was doing quite well doing 3 times a week." Now that's 3 sessions a week of proper sort of strength training in a gym. And I kind of said, "Yeah, but she's got dogs, so she walks the dogs every day. She's active." And she's been doing like an ice bath every morning. I think today, the day of recording, she's done like 85 days in a row. So by the time this goes out, she would have done over 100 days. And she said, "Oh, I'll take that as something positive that I do." And exactly. So it's not just about training and exercising and going to the gym. It's about doing stuff positive for your own health. And that's what I'm sorry. That's what I was. What I've just got my chain of thought back. We were speaking about the difference 25 years ago. 25 years ago, no one tracked the number of steps they did every day. No one had a mobile phone, or very few people had a mobile. Well, no one had a mobile phone in their pocket that could do what the phones nowadays do. The mobile phone 25 years ago would have literally just made a phone call. You didn't even have text messaging and stuff like that, probably. So the thing is, we've got so much more technologically advanced, and there's all these apps, and there's so many more apps, and there's so much more information, and we spoke about this numerous times, things are so much more complicated, and everyone's got access to so much more technology and information. And in that 25 years, people who are overweight and obese has doubled. So it's not I mean, people, we know this, but it's not the apps, it's not the technology, it's not the knowledge of the information that's going to change things. It's the way we're living, isn't it?
It's it,
You
it's
know,
funny. We were speaking about this with Dan, weren't we? And it's like the
yeah.
body knows.
Mm,
You don't need all the technology in that. The body knows that if you move more, it'll give you more.
mm,
Like that's it.
mm.
But human physiology hasn't changed because we've got some apps.
No,
It hasn't. And
but I
okay,
think,
you can research it all and find out like optimal ways to do things and all this, which is fantastic. But most people don't need optimal. Most people just need to get started.
most
It's
people
like
need
we're talking about
better.
it.
Yeah.
we're talking about, weren't they? Eat the 5 portions of fruit and veg a day, and then someone goes, "Well, what's a portion of fruit and veg then?" So if you have to ask, you just need to eat a vegetable or a
Yeah.
piece of fruit. Just do
Yeah.
that. Just
Yeah.
one a day. Just do that,
Yeah.
and then go from there. Because and
Which, like we talked about last week with Dan, wasn't it? The need to overcomplicate things,
oh
or the
god,
need
yeah.
to keep asking questions, and to almost need as much information as you can possibly have before you take action. Whereas,
Do you know? Do you know
you
what?
know,
Do you know what's? Do you know what's funny with stuff like this? I was thinking about Dan the other day. Just by having conversations with people, like I have the hob top espresso coffee, right? And people go, "Yeah, that's in an aluminium thing. You shouldn't do that because it's bad for you." And but
what's it
but
called? What's this thing called? I don't know what you're talking about.
the espresso things on a hob top. You screw them together and make an espresso out of it.
Okay.
The
Oh, like,
Italian things.
oh, has it got like a plunger?
No, that's the French press.
Okay.
You're French. This is Italian. No, you screw them together and you put it on the hob top, and then it bubbles the water through the coffee and it comes out the top.
Okay. Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
but someone was like, "They're made out of aluminium. You shouldn't do that. It's bad for your bloodstream and all that. You'll get heavy metal. I don't know, whatever." Right, and I'm like, "Okay, that's
Who
cool."
said that? Who said that?
Well,
Are they
a,
like,
a few people have said that to me, right, in the past, and it's
yeah.
like, yeah, but you drink 10 pints a day, or like, you know what I mean, or you eat McDonald's habitually, or whatever. It's like it's in context, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I've got worse things to worry about than that. I eat more healthily than I ever used to, and all of that sort of stuff. So, and maybe someone will be listening to this in the future, and I'll be dead, and they'll go, "I told you," but I'm willing to take that chance, right? So we were talking about this, and I'm losing my train of thought again. But Dan was talking about something like this, about people overanalyze everything, when it's literally just like you need to just look at what you eat and what you drink and what you do on a daily basis, and then do a little bit. And if you're not doing if you're eating really badly and you're not moving and you drink too much, drink a little bit less, move a bit more, and start to eat better. But it's like, obviously there's a mental side to it and all of that, but
it's just trying to be better, isn't it? Better.
yes,
It's that 1% better every day or whatever it is. But it's like I am absolutely convinced that the majority of the population are pretty intelligent, or, they know, we instinctively, and we know, if we're honest with ourselves, what is better for us and what is not so good for us. And I don't think there's anyone out there that's sort of nowadays that thinks that smoking is good for them, or vaping is good for them, or drinking lots of alcohol is good for them, or eating McDonald's is good for them. I just think most people just don't. People do it, but I don't think they think it's good for them. So if you just literally can just make some small changes towards, and we spoke about this continuum where you're not kind of terrible or perfect. There's a continuum, there's a line, and you try to move towards better. And it could be, eating more fresh fruit, eating more vegetables, drinking more water, doing more steps, getting more sleep, exercising a little bit more, eating a little bit less processed foods, drinking a little bit less alcohol. If you still smoke, reducing or give up smoking. It's just that most people, like you say, they don't need optimum. They don't need the Huberman Lab morning routine that takes 3 hours. They need to start making some small changes that they know in their heart of hearts already. They know what to do.
I've just had a thought on this.
Mm.
So I was going to say, Dan mentioned something similar last week, but in that time over the last 25 years, the advertising and whatever for fast food and
Big
everything,
food and big pharma and
all
else,
of
yeah.
that has gone through the roof as well, right? There's huge amounts of money pumped into that, and they win, which is why why we've got diabetes is huge, and depression's huge, and the NHS is struggling, and people are like more obese than they've ever been, and all of that. We know that, right? Or I know that, right? And I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. But I'm willing to be. but that's a big factor in it. So as an example of that, it's about the environment that you put yourself in as well. So if you're watching lots of telly with all these adverts coming at you, you're going to want to do that. If you're not active, you're going to have more time to think about that, right? So Saturday, I had a couple of beers and some chips at the venue, right? Just because I was a bit hungry. So I had some chips because I didn't want to eat. There was basically chips, pizza, some burgers, and like what have you, right? And I didn't want any of that. So I just got some chips and they were actually okay. And I had a couple of beers. Sunday, I wasn't going to have any beer and I wasn't going to eat anything or whatever because we were only there for a few hours, right? About 3:30, it finished at 5, didn't it? About 3:30, I was like, right, I'll go and get a bottle of water. I'm a bit thirsty. So I got a beer and a bottle of water and a small tube of Pringles, right? I never eat Pringles because I know there's no food in them, right? I never eat Pringles, but I was like, but it was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's like, and everyone else around you is eating stuff and all of that. So I was just like, and I had one beer and a tube of Pringles, right? And I never eat Pringles. Not for any particular reason. I just don't find
and it wasn't a massive tube. It was one of these little ones, wasn't it? Because they sold.
Yeah, exactly. I ate them in about 30 seconds and I got zero value from it. However, I don't care because I don't do it all the time. But in that environment, when you're sitting down, not doing, we're not doing anything apart from being entertained by what's in front of us.
Yeah. We're sitting there watching people exercise.
Yeah. The temptation is there, isn't it? Yeah. You know what I mean? You go up to get a bottle of water, the bottle of water in the fridge behind there, and you've got to look past the beer and cider pumps to see the water. And I was like, well, I knew I was doing it, but it was almost as if I'll have a beer. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's that gets me a lot as well, because when people are inactive and they sit around not doing much, that's when you get the idea of like, well, I'll just have a snack or I'll just do this. Whereas at least if you're out and about, the opportunity isn't necessarily there. It's not in the cupboard or whatever. You're out and about and you've only got what you've taken with you. You know what I mean? Especially if you're out in the countryside. Yeah. So it's that thing of just things being in front of your face. Try and get out of that situation. And then you're not tempted, right?
This is reminding me of the podcast episode, I've got it written down, 195 we did with Nick Rainbird about the forest bathing and the being out in nature and whatnot. And we have to take 100% responsibility for ourselves, and our choices are our choices at the end of the day. And just like you said, you knew a tube of Pringles isn't particularly healthy, and you knew you know, maybe you decided you weren't going to have a beer, but then you decided to have one. But you decided to, and you did it, and that's fine, you know. And that was the decision that you made. But
if it wasn't there, I wouldn't have though.
No, that's what I mean. If it wasn't there, you wouldn't have done it. Now, so it's kind of, but we've said this before as well. I say it to members all the time. I probably have said it on this podcast before, but what we do occasionally is of little consequence, but what we do habitually is of massive consequence. So that going to sit in the UK Strongest Man in an arena where you're surrounded by just junk food and a couple of beers, I'm putting my thumb up. Can you see my thumbs come up again? That's this thing. Is an occasional, it's like a once a year or twice a year type thing, you know? So having a beer and some Pringles once or twice a year, or even 3 or 4 times a year, is of zero consequence in the grander scheme of things. But how you live your life on a day-to-day basis and what you do habitually is of a massive consequence. So it's just,
I will put a caveat on that.
Yeah.
I don't eat Pringles that much, but I do drink beer more often than once a year.
Yeah, oh no, I know you do. But, you know, it's kind of like we are in control of where we put ourselves, you know, and everyone has always got a choice, you know, where to go, who to spend time with, what to order, what to eat, what to drink. And you know, if you spend, it's like everything in it. If you spend your life around people who are drinking to excess all the time, and you're constantly putting yourself in a situation where you're in the pub all the time, it's not probably gonna be very good for you. You know, you have to kind of take that 100% responsibility. But at the same time, as Josh Hillis former guest of the show would say, if it matches your values and you make decisions and, oh, I'm at this event and I'm going to I'm going to have the dessert and I'm going to have a beer and I'm going to enjoy it. And it's what I decide to do and I choose to do it because I'm making that decision consciously and I'm fully aware that it's not great for me, but I'm socializing and it's going to add to my enjoyment of this moment. Then make the decision and do it,
Yeah.
if you're doing that every other day or every weekend, then and you've got, health issues, then you make the decision, you make your bed and you lie in it. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
It's funny because you said something earlier about people are intelligent and they know what to do.
Yeah.
And in my view, and I include myself in this, people are intelligent, but the advertisers of the shit that that they want you to eat and take and all of that are more intelligent because they know consumer psychology and all of that. And people think they're above consumer psychology. But if you're tired and stressed and you're just going through the day like this, that's when those things hit you. They know exactly what to do and exactly how to get you into that, to get you into that position where you'll go, yes, I'll have that, thank you very much.
Well, the thing is, they play on it. They attack you through like emotion and through like a deeper level of consciousness. But
some people can think they're too intelligent. I know myself and I don't get affected by that. Everybody does.
Oh, I know. Yeah, 100%, 100%. And the thing is that there was I can't remember, it might be Tony Robbins or I'm sure it's general sort of psychology stuff as well, that and it's sales, certainly sales and marketing. People make decisions based on emotion and then justify the decision based on logic, So if you buy a new car, for example, if you just wanted a car to get from A to B, you could get a car that was, I don't even know how much a car costs these days, because but say you could buy a car for £10,000. I don't know if you can anymore, but you could buy a car for £10,000 that will get you from A to B. It'll be reliable. It'll do everything you need it to do. But you'll go into the showroom and then you'll get sat down in the chair and they'll show you the top of the range model, which has got the sat nav built in, the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, the more plush interior. You get the feel of sitting in the comfy seats, the better trim,
the 6 CD changer in the
and then you think, well, okay, well, how much more is this? Oh, well, it's only an extra. It's an extra. You're paying it off over 5 years. It's only an extra £25 a month, which over the course of 5 years adds up to quite a lot more money. But oh, go on then. Oh, you deserve it. You get these messages come through from or emails through from fast food places or from shopping. I buy stuff from Cerberus or Silverback or whatever, and they send you a thing with a discount code on at a certain time of day, at a certain time of the month. And they know when most people's payday is, and when people will be thinking, oh, I'll treat myself, and all that. So it's very, very clever, I know. But if like Nick Rainbird was talking about, if we engage less with the TV and we turn off and we engage less with our mobile phones and we engage less with social media, you are actually engaging less in that kind of, psyops, marketing, propaganda, whatever you want to call it, that is wanting you to spend your money and make the decisions that are just going to benefit big corporations and not benefit your health. So, and that has all changed in the last 25 years, which is, I think, what you were saying. We did not have this. You had TV adverts on possibly ITV and Channel 4. I don't even know if Channel 5 was around 25 years ago. Probably you just had your standard 4 or 5 channels that you used to watch, know.
But yeah, you'd see an advert on there, and if you wanted the thing, you had to go out and get it.
Yeah.
Right? Now you just go, oh, I quite fancy one of those. Click, done.
You couldn't even go online and buy it, could you? Yeah, you had to wait. And if the shop was shut, you'd have to wait till,
Channel 4, I don't know about anything else, but Channel 4, if you watch Channel 4 online, they tailor the adverts to you. So you see,
they all do now. Probably.
If you watch it like on catch up, you see different adverts to what like everyone else.
Yeah.
It's bonkers, man. It's absolutely
Yeah.
crazy. I get it. I'm not like all like, oh wow, no, we need to stop all of this and wear tin hats and all that. But it's like you just got to be aware of it because
Yeah.
people aren't, or they
Yeah.
are aware of it, but it's sneaky.
Yeah.
Put it that
It
way.
is. This is. I'll tell you what. We've been going for about an hour, I think. That was really interesting. I
It's
found
no,
it
this
really
is this
interesting.
is
Anyway,
one
I
of the
don't know if
things
anyone
though,
else did.
because when people talk about health, right? We're the Health Oddity podcast, and this has been an odd one because people talk about health, and it's like that's great, but it's not just about eating and moving.
Mm.
It's about all of that other, like brain health and everything. It's about all of that stuff, and we are being constantly bombarded. Like I mean, even the amount of information that is thrown our way in a day over the last 25 years, I don't know what the statistics are on it, but it'll be something ridiculous, like
Well,
absolutely ludicrous. And then,
smartphones basically changed the
yeah,
world, didn't they? Whereby if you're stood in the line to a bank or a supermarket or whatever, you can just pull your phone out your pocket and just be
yeah.
scrolling mindlessly through rubbish that's being targeted to you. Um, it was the saying. It's kind of like something like if something's for free and you don't know what the product is, you are the product. You are the product being sold.
Exactly.
But you know what I mean. You are there basically being sold to, and you're the thing that's making the advertisers money because you're just scrolling through your phone and you're being coerced into buying stuff. But
Do you want
anyway,
me to make you feel old? Because
go
you're
on.
like same age as me, similar, aren't you?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's funny because someone said to me once, if you want kids to think like make kids think you're old, tell them you're older than Facebook or something. And then it's like, yeah, well, I'm older than Google. I'm older than
Oh,
the internet.
I'm off the yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like going to kids, I'm older than the internet. They'll be like, Jesus Christ, you're 100 years old. How did that happen?
Yeah, no, but it was interesting. This whole podcast was spawned, I say, just by the thoughts I was having yesterday and the post I did about that 25 years ago when I started in this industry. What was the world like 25 years ago? And just it's fascinating. And then it just kind of I put the two together, with the changing in statistics and the changing of health and all the rest of it. And no, it's fascinating, but we just have to be aware of things, and we have to take responsibility for ourselves whilst acknowledging that really the world is not set up in a way to promote you to be healthy and strong and resilient and self-sufficient and have your own thoughts and all the rest of it. Now the world is not set up in a way to foster that, so you have to consciously try to curate your experience of life, I suppose, is the best way to put it. But yeah, fascinating. Thank you, Pete.
So we're like talking about films, right? Enemy of the State. That popped up somewhere the other day. I
Oh,
haven't seen that.
Denzel Washington.
No, it's
Enemy of the State. Oh no, it's Will Smith. Will Smith. Is
so
it?
we'll cut that out. We'll cut that
No,
bit
no,
out.
no, don't because Denzel Washington was I did a post the other day. The reason I did a post the other day about the what was it called? The Edward Woodward, the Equalizer movies.
Oh, right, yeah.
The Equalizer movies. That's why I said Denzel's in my head because
No, it was it's Will
is it
Smith
Will,
and
is it Will Smith? It's
Gene
Will Smith.
Hackman, Tom
Ah, okay.
Sizemore.
Yeah.
Everyone's in it. But it's about him running away from all the technology, isn't it? They're tracking him with technology and all that. And that might even be 25 years old, that film, actually. And it's about all of that.
Yeah.
Of like getting away from it all. And now we're carrying it around in our pocket.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
Because I talking to Will Smith, I watched Bad Boys 4 the other day. The new one out of the cinema. No, it's quite entertaining. It's quite entertaining.
I haven't seen any of them.
Have you never seen the first Bad Boys?
No.
Oh, they're all Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3 are all on Netflix. It was certainly was the first one anyway. It's like 1990 something. But that was very, very good. But no, yeah, The Equalizer. Actually, quite a lot of people came. You've watched The Equalizer, have you?
Not the films, no. I remember watching it on telly back in the day.
No, you are dating yourself, Edward Woodward. Edward Woodward.
Yeah.
No, but The Equalizer, I did a post the other day. is there a better, we're going into films now, sorry, but is there a better kind of guy just trying to live a quiet life, vigilante sort of movie character than Denzel Washington in the Equalizer trilogy? And it's worth watching.
There is one.
But
Poe he just wants to get home to his kid. You know, put the buddy back in the box. Con Air.
oh.
Obviously, he's a con, but he just wants to get home.
Yeah, no, the Equalizer is very good. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening, for watching. Please do like, share, subscribe. Please give us, I haven't asked for a while, but subscribe on YouTube if you don't subscribe on YouTube. And do give us a review on Apple Podcasts, because we are like I said, I just read Graham Harris's one today. We do see them when they come out, and we will read the reviews out live on the podcast and then give away some free merch. So Graham, get in touch with us. We will be back next week for episode 202. Not sure of the guest at the time of recording. It will be a guest, or it will be me and Pete again. But yeah, hope you have a fantastic week. Try to start thinking about that, the hour of movement per day, the walking, the steps, all that kind of stuff that we spoke about, and try and think about how you might be able to fit that into your life. And we will see you next week for episode 202. Until then, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.